Welcome to this edition of Buncombe Live. I'm here at the Firehouse Casual Living Store with Dick Hoffman, the owner.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here with us. And Ashley Featherstone, who is the, I'm going to get this whole title in here, Engineering Supervisor for the Western North Carolina Regional Air Quality Agency.
Yes,
Right?
thank you.
Good. I'm so glad they've both joined me this morning because it's getting to be that cool time of year, and I know everybody is looking at their wood stove and thinking, do we want this one again this year? If it's a new one, you're proud of it. If it's not, you may want to change. Or you may be thinking, you know, it costs a lot to heat a home. It does.
Right.
We're thinking about a wood stove. If you are, there's a lot of things that you need to know, and we're going to cover some of those this morning. But for you guys that have wood stoves in your home, the main thing we want you to know this morning is there's a tax credit for trading that old guy in and getting a new one. How do you know if it's old? How do you know if you should trade it in? That's what we're going to talk about this morning. So, welcome. I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Thank you for having us out here to your wonderful store. Folks haven't been out here, they need to check it out. It's on Biltmore Avenue.
That's right.
Very close to downtown Asheville, right across from, I'm looking out the door here, 257 Biltmore Avenue, right across the street. And you have got a wide variety of wood stoves in here. So if you need one, come out. What we want to talk to you about this morning, though, is folks that have a wood stove, have had it for a few years. There's a tax credit if they trade it in. But how will they know if they need to trade one in? And why
Well, I
should
guess
they? I want to talk to you about that.
Okay.
The thing for people to understand is that stoves that were made in the late 80s and older are not very efficient by today's standards.
But that doesn't sound like an old stove. I mean, late
Right.
80s doesn't sound that long ago to me, but that's been 20 years.
That's right. And what happened, the EPA adopted standards for clean combustion and air standards for these stoves. And with that, it implements a cleaner burn, which gives the stoves a greater efficiency and makes a clean discharge from the flue or the stack. And that was what the EPA was after. So those stoves prior to those late 80s are all stoves that are good candidates to be replaced. And what's transpired with the tax credit has been an inclusion in all of the efforts for recovery to include energy efficient applications in a residence.
Right.
And the stoves got included in that. So stoves now in 2009 and 2010, as they're purchased, are applicable for a 30% tax credit of the purchase of the stove.
Wow.
To include the installation cost of the labor and the flue and the chimney. Obviously, this applies as a credit for your tax preparation, and we would suggest people utilize a tax consultant to make sure they don't have anything about their personal taxes that would complicate this. But as a hearth store, whether it's us or others in the area, they can assist people in selecting a stove that would be applicable for this tax credit.
Now, are all stoves that are out there now EPA certified, or do they just have to go to a certain kind?
All stoves that are produced today do have to be an EPA certified stove.
Okay.
But part of the tax credit implemented a specific standard that it had to be a 75% efficient by a certain measurable standard.
Okay.
And that has created now a certification by each manufacturer having a certificate
Yeah.
that they would give out that says that stove is qualified for that tax credit.
That tax credit,
Right.
and it's probably the best one you can get for efficient.
Most all wood stoves generally are in a 70 to a mid and high 70% efficiency rating.
Right.
So all stoves that apply to the tax credit have to have that certification where they are 75% and meet the IRS standard for
So
this tax credit.
Some of our folks at home are thinking about getting a new stove. It would probably be to their benefit to come to a place where they can ask someone, is this going to meet
Yes.
that tax credit? Don't just try to figure it out yourself.
Right.
Okay.
And I would say that probably 95% of the stoves that are for resale or for sale meet that standard. There are only a few that, for whatever particular reasons, didn't get included in that.
Right. Oh, so that's definitely something you need to think about. The why of it, air quality. They've got one of these. I know we used to have an old stove. It was a way prior 88 stove. It was huge. It did the job. But from what I've read here, and I want you to tell me about this, that probably wasn't a very healthy wood stove for us.
That's right. The older wood stoves emit a lot of fine particulate air pollution into
fine particulate air pollution.
Yes.
What does that mean? Dust?
Well, it's dust is a larger particulate. The fine particles actually stay suspended in the air, and they can get breathed deep down into your lungs, where they can cause breathing problems.
Really?
And so the older stoves emitted a lot more fine particles into the outdoor air and into the indoor air, which is really important if you have children with asthma.
Yeah, let's talk indoor air first, because I know, like this stove that we've got burning right here, which is an efficient, new, great stove, I can barely tell. I don't smell anything. I just don't smell any
That's right.
wood burning. And
that's really important.
The old ones, you could smell it, which probably tells.
Right. If you can smell it, then you are being exposed to it. So with the older stoves, where you have a strong odor of the wood smoke in the room, that means you've also got those fine particles associated with that wood smoke in the room.
And asthma. You said that was for kids with asthma or adults with asthma in a home where there was an older stove burning?
Yes, and even just allergies and folks with other problems, other breathing problems. It's really significant. So we at the Air Quality Agency really want to get the word out to people about the benefits of using these tax credits to replace those older wood stoves for the indoor air and health benefits, and also for the outdoor air. Because here in the mountains, as you know, we tend to have these inversions where smoke can get trapped down low in the valleys at night especially, and with a lot of people burning with the older wood stoves that put out a lot more smoke, that can be a problem, and it can affect your neighbors as well.
Right. So an air inversion, and I know you air pollution control folks talk about that a lot. Air quality. The inversion is where like you said, it gets trapped down in between our mountains.
Yes.
And then that's where the smoke burning from all the wood stoves. You see a lot of homes. That's the old pictures of the the smoke going up from the chimney. That's really not a good thing.
That's really not,
Okay.
because we do have those inversions because of our topography. So we're really glad to hear about the new tax credits, and just want to let people know about those. And there are a lot of other benefits besides just the air pollution and health benefits. Some of the newer stoves, certain types, actually burn less wood, and they also create less creosote, so it's less of a chimney fire hazard.
Oh, that's a huge benefit. Tell us more about that. I know you were talking to me about the flue, is that what you call that?
Right.
Stack that goes up. And I know a lot of homes have the vaulted ceilings, and they have wood stoves. And tell me about that.
Well, when a stove is installed, as this one is, with an exposed chimney connector, the height of that is important to maintain the temperature of that flue gas so it doesn't cool down too quickly and slow down the combustion. So where we have high ceilings, as in a cathedral ceiling, we normally use a connector that is a double wall connector that helps to retain that heat in the flue itself, so it'll continue to draft properly and burn good.
So it's not really that important for that flue to be hot. You need to keep the heat down in where the wood is burning.
And that's a misconception generally that people have, is to have the connector or the pipe be a heat source. But the stove is really the heat source. The flue or that pipe is really an exhaust, and we're only getting some secondary heat off of that. It's more important to make sure that we keep the flue gases moving quickly enough so that it drafts properly and burns properly.
That is a huge key. I think a lot of the folks that have the older stoves, the older big stoves, if they do have them in that kind of setting, have probably got those old flues going up.
We'll have customers from time to time that really have a problem with that philosophy, that say, well, I get a lot of heat from that flue, and they do. But again, the technology today is to really drive the heat from the stove, not from the pipe.
Now tell me about these new stoves too. They burn less wood, they burn more efficiently?
Correct.
And they burn the smoke?
Yes. What happened with those standards that I mentioned earlier, to get the clean burn and clean combustion and no smoke, which is a good sign that you have unburned fuel and flue gas, was to develop technology inside of the stoves. Most of the stoves, as that was implemented, used a catalytic combustor, and a catalytic combustor provided for the flue gases coming out of the combustion chamber to go through a secondary chamber, and with that combustor they would reignite and you'd get secondary burn. So as you develop that, you're using less wood because all of that fuel is being consumed.
Burning the gas,
it's burning the gas and giving you good heat, and it's achieving that clean stack discharge up top. So if we were to go outside and look at this stove, all you would see would be heat waves. You wouldn't see any visual smoke. And that's an indication that that stove's burning clean.
Oh, that right there is a reason to get one.
Now, the other thing that transpired was manufacturers found another way to do that with what's referred to as clean burn technology, where the stoves actually have developed a path in the stove where more air comes into it, and we refer to that as secondary combustion air, and that will complete another element of fuel, and we'll get combustion in that path as it begins to exit and get that secondary burn. So we're doing it without a catalytic combustor in a lot of stoves now. Catalytic combustor stoves are typically a little more efficient, but in the scale it's only incremental. So all of the stoves that you'll find today in any hearth store will meet those clean burn standards, and as a secondary issue they give you better fuel economy and better heat and longer burn times, which people want to go through the night or into the night.
Right, and can probably heat a home.
A lot of times you'll find that with the layout of the floor plan, you can heat a majority of space. We have people that tell us that they're heating 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 square feet with a wood stove.
With a wood stove.
Right.
That's wonderful. And then if they've got the new efficient one, they're not getting the particulates,
Yes.
the little particles in their indoor air, so it's helping asthma and helping folks to breathe. And then it's not going outside either. And,
That's right. And the particle pollution is a big focus at the Air Quality Agency. It does cause a lot of health problems, and it's also linked to the visibility issues that we have in the summertime, where the particles actually interact with the humidity and obscure our mountain views. So the particles are very important. We're really trying to reduce those however we can.
Yeah, just cleaning that out. So if folks are in the market for a new wood stove, you don't have to give me specifics, but it's just wide range of price.
A wood stove can be anywhere from $500 to $3,500.
Okay.
And of course that's for a smaller, more simple stove to a larger, more elaborate stove, particularly ones that have enamel surfaces.
Right.
So it's a wide range, just like anything. You can find different increments of size and efficiencies or effectiveness in the product.
Okay, so that's wonderful. It makes me want to come get one, and I've got one.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that you want our folks at home to know? I know there was some things that we wanted to talk about as far as safety and using your wood stove. We watched you light this fire. It was all safe. You used gloves when you put the wood in. That was great. I know some of the tips here that I have. One says, have your wood stove cleaned and inspected annually.
Absolutely. The issue there is to avoid creosote buildup. Even in high efficiency stoves, depending on how it may have been used, you may have developed some creosote. So it's always a good recommendation to avoid having a situation where you'd have a chimney fire. Have that stove cleaned and inspected. Best to use good seasoned hardwoods. Use of other types of woods will typically produce more creosote. So always use good seasoned hardwoods, and burn a stove according to the manufacturer's guidelines where you get the best efficiency. You can take a high efficiency stove and burn it inefficiently by trying to burn too small a fire, and likewise you can burn it too hot where you're not getting your efficiency. So if you follow those guidelines, you'll have good safety. The other thing is to watch for small children and animals around wood stoves. It is a hot surface area. We always tell people they need to go through an education process with children and even with pets. Once they've learned, they'll enjoy it too. We use things like this screen to put in front of wood stoves to help with that. So those are a couple of things to watch for.
Those are great tips. Some more stuff here, and help me, Ashley, if you think of something I don't have on here. Never burn household garbage, cardboard.
Right.
That's going to make toxic.
Yes, it will result in a lot of toxic air pollution emissions.
Don't burn magazines or wrapping paper. I know at Christmas people do burn their wrapping paper, and there was not a good idea.
No.
Not a good idea.
And that's because there are inks and different things that are used in the production of those papers. And in some stoves, that can actually be a detriment to the stove. So
Really?
That would also include things like scraps of treated woods, things that have a lot of paint. All of those things will have those particulate matter possibilities to it.
Just burn the old weathered wood. That's what they say.
Good
the old
seasoned hardwood.
Seasoned, there's the word, hardwood. one on here that doesn't really impact us here, but I thought it was kind of funny. I've never heard this. Never burn ocean driftwood. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that here in the mountains, but
No, we wouldn't have that.
we
but,
wouldn't have it. But I'd never thought not to do that. It's just amazing things they say not to do. And only bring into your home the amount of wood needed for a day to reduce the chance of allergies and mold spores.
Right.
Hadn't thought of that either.
Yes.
Yeah, there's that air quality again.
Yes.
Trying to keep that air quality good. So as we end up here, is there anything else? I've got one more question, but is there anything else that you want our folks at home to know about anything we've covered?
Well, from the standpoint of a hearth store, we would encourage people to visit a hearth store to find out about burning a wood stove, upgrading their wood stove, and the tax credit. It's a great opportunity if you're in that market to add or replace a wood stove and get into something that is a clean burning appliance.
Save them money.
Can save them a lot of money, particularly with fuel costs we saw last year where fuel oil prices escalated to an extreme amount. And a wood stove, we're in an area that wood is plentiful. Even if you're not a property owner and are buying wood, there are a lot of sources for wood out there.
That's true. Great point. Anything else you want to leave our folks with?
Well, if people are curious, if they've got a stove that's a little bit older but they're not sure if it's certified or not, they can actually check the stove itself and see if there's a plate on it that gives them information, maybe call the manufacturer if they can get a model number, or check with their local hearth store.
Right. And I know one of the things I've heard this morning that I wouldn't have thought of is read the instructions. If you get a new wood stove, read the instructions on how to use it. It's not just a duh. There's some things that you have to know about. Thank you both this morning. I've learned. I hope our folks at home have learned. We're going to put up some contact information on the screen if they want to know more about the tax credit. They want to know more about this store or other hearth stores. We'll put up some of that information too. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us.
Okay, thanks so much for hosting us.
Stay tuned.
My name is Robert Powell and I'm from Special Olympics. If anybody wants to volunteer or come play any sports, come join us. And I would like to tell you some of the things that I do. I do bowling, track and field, and softball and golf. It is a very nice sport to do, and if you'll just call for reservations for Special Olympics, and especially for you coaches out there that has never coached before, just call and just say you want to coach, and I hope that you'll have fun. Don't be nervous. It's not about nervousness. It's about participating and having a good time with other people around the surrounding counties, and just don't be afraid. Just participate and have a good time.
And my name is Lauren Brown. I'm the area director for Special Olympics North Carolina. And Buncombe County is one of over 100 programs in the state that offers year-round sports programming to people with intellectual disabilities at no cost. And we have year-round sports. And I'd also like to introduce the coordinator for Special Olympics Buncombe County, Grace Young, and she can tell you how to get involved.
Hello, my name is Grace Young and I'm the coordinator for Special Olympics for Buncombe County. Would like to invite any and all coaches, athletes, and volunteers to join in the fun, participating in any and all of our games that are all year round. Please give me a call, 250-4265, for information and forms. Fall programming. Registration begins August the 1st of each year for bocce ball, soccer, soccer skills, golf skills, and cycling. Winter programming. Registration begins October 1st of each year. Cheerleading, basketball, basketball skills, and alpine skiing. Spring game programming. Registration begins January the 1st of each year. Track and field. Summer games. Registration begins March 1st of each year. Softball, softball skills, volleyball, track and field, aquatics. Midsummer programming. Registration begins May 1st of each year. Bowling. So please join in. Give us a call at 250-4265.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that section over at the Casual Living store. We learned a lot. I thought it was very interesting. Right now, we're going to hop on out to the castle out across from Irwin High School and talk to Max Sally about how to take care of your wood stove, how to take precautions and make sure that you're safe when you use those wood stoves this winter. So sit back, relax, and stay tuned as we join Mac. Even though it's warm out here today, beautiful day, winter's coming. Storm season is coming, heating season is coming, and I'm sorry, oil is expensive, my groceries are expensive, gas is expensive, my utility bill's going up, and I'm afraid some folks are going to heat their homes in ways they shouldn't.
It's a very real concern for all the fire service right now. The heating oil has skyrocketed. Propane, natural gas have gone up. There are all sorts of rate increases on the horizon for the other utilities. And people are going to be creative. Folks are going to start to use their wood stoves that they haven't used in 5 or 6 years. And when that happens, are they going to take the time to make sure the chimney's clean? Are they going to clean it out? What kind of wood are they going to burn? Those are things that they need to be concerned with.
So they need to get those chimneys cleaned now.
They do.
Can they call their volunteer fire department and get some tips on that?
Volunteer fire department can give them some tips, but they are not set up to do the chimney inspections. We recommend them contact chimney sweeps.
Okay.
Because they will come out. They can clean the chimney where a fire department can't. Most chimney sweeps now have the cameras where they can lower them down through the chimney and do a scan all the way around the chimney. And find problems, more importantly cracks.
Now, would you suggest they do that before they ever use their wood stove or their fireplace?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you might want to do that now.
This is the time of year when the sweeps aren't real busy to go ahead and get them out. It's also a good time to get your furnace inspected.
Ooh, I hadn't thought about that.
Well, while things are quiet, this is the time. Let the service people come in, check heat pumps even, furnaces and chimneys.
And just make sure.
Get everything ready.
Okay. Now, what about when, and we know this is going to happen, folks are going to run out of oil, they're not going to have any money to refill that tank, and like you said, they're going to get creative. I know there's kerosene heaters, kerosene heaters, there's space heaters, and then we've had people say, well, I'll just use my oven. I'll just turn it up, open the door, and...
We have seen that many times. An oven's not designed to heat a large area. It's designed to heat that one specific space. When you're trying to force the air to heat more and more, it overworks the oven.
And that could be dangerous.
And that is dangerous. It also puts open, not necessarily an open flame, but open heating elements exposed to folks. And it's not designed for that.
Yeah, so you hear him, don't do that. I know if you're going to use kerosene heaters or space heaters, is there any tips about using those?
Kerosene heaters, the biggest concern we have is to make sure that they have the right fuel.
How do you take care of a kerosene heater? How do you fill it?
Kerosene heaters, you have to cut them off, let them cool down, then put the kerosene in, start them back. But all this process has to be done outside.
Outside your house.
What happens with the kerosene heater is when you start it and stop it, there is some residual kerosene that will eventually coat the walls of a house. If you do have a fire in that house, the walls have a kerosene coating on them.
So you're saying that if you should, I've done this, if you've got a kerosene heater in your house, you can't just start it and fill it and do everything you want to do inside your house.
Absolutely not. You need to go outside. Because if something does go wrong, you don't want to burn your house down.
No.
I mean, and if you're outside, it's safer.
Okay.
It's a little colder.
Well, yeah, but that's worth the extra steps to go outside.
It is. It is.
And using this heat, and until you can get some money to get some oil, this is what people are going to do this year.
That's true.
Just know.
And please, with kerosene heaters, space heaters, look at the recommendations from the manufacturer on separation from combustibles, from furniture, from Christmas trees, from carpet, all these things, because they all have recommendations, 18 inches, 24 inches
Well,
for
how
safety.
about leaving it on overnight, leaving it on going to bed?
I'm not in favor of that at all. It's an open fire in my house.
That's right. That's right. So you need to be safe. If you have to use alternative means to heat your house other than the oil or gas, They need to be safe.
Right.
Is there any other tips about fire safety?
One of the things that people have a tendency to do when they use wood stoves is they burn the softer woods, pine, for example, and those are the woods that leave a buildup in the chimney.
The creosote.
Yeah, and what you want to do is get hardwoods to burn. They burn longer, they burn hot. They don't burn as hot as a softwood, but it still provides the heat and it doesn't give you the problems.
And they need to be careful with their wood stoves and going to bed at night and leaving that thing going, especially for folks who may not be real used to using one.
Choke it down just a little bit. A lot of the wood stove fires we find, we talk to the homeowner after the fire, and I've used this wood stove for 20 years and I've never had a problem. No, but over the 20 years, the wood around it has dried out, and eventually it gets hot enough to ignite.
So they need to be careful.
Right.
What do you find in fires that happen when people are using alternative methods? What's the number one problem that you see?
Lack of maintenance.
Right, so just not doing the safety
Not doing what they're
measures ahead of
supposed to.
time. Okay, and that's easy to take care of.
It is, and all of these heaters come with instructions.
Just follow the instructions.
Right.
I hope you've enjoyed this show. We sure enjoyed filming it for you, but we want you to check back in with us next month because we've got a lot of new information for you. Beginning January the 2nd in Buncombe County, outside the municipalities, that means folks who live out in the county and have a franchised garbage hauler, you're going to have a new hauler. We're changing franchise haulers in Buncombe County, and GDS will no longer be providing you service. Your new hauler will be Waste Pro. Probably haven't heard of them. They're out of Florida. They're moving in here, and on January 2nd, they'll be your waste hauler. Well, guess what? Next month in December, if you'll sit down with us and watch Buncombe Live, you'll get to meet the Executive Vice President of Waste Pro, Bob Hires, who joins us to show us the new trucks, to tell us about their recycling, and to tell us how they plan to do a great job picking up and hauling off our garbage. So make sure you join us next month for Buncombe Live. Picking a job, pulling off our up and haul our garbage. We're picking a job, pulling off our.
Doing what they're 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 Doing with it. 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 Doing with it.